I'm proud to be here with all of you. And before I get into my formal remarks, I do want to start by acknowledging that we are gathered here today on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Together, let's renew our commitment as Ontarians to working hand in hand with Indigenous peoples to protect our land, water, and air for centuries to come, as they have done for centuries past, and as part of our commitment to true and meaningful reconciliation. So it really is great to be back at AMO. I never get tired of being at the AMO Conference, and I'm so glad to see so many friends and familiar faces here. There is no level of government whose work is closer to everyday Ontario families than municipalities. And you help our communities thrive. So thank you, Mayor McGarvey, and all of you municipal leaders and staff for all that you do. And of course, yes, absolutely. And of course, a big thanks to our host, Mayor Jim Watson, for fearlessly leading this city and welcoming us to beautiful Ottawa this week. So as many of you know, yes, give it up for Mayor Jim, absolutely, former colleague at Queen's Park. As many of you know, before my time at Queen's Park, I had the honor of serving on Hamilton's City Council for many years. So I've walked a mile in your shoes, and I know from years of working with folks in this room and speaking with families across this great province that no matter what part of Ontario we live in, we all want similar things. We all imagine a better tomorrow for ourselves and an even better future for our kids and for the communities that we serve. A future where life's more affordable and folks have good paying, quality jobs that they can raise a family on. Where everyone can send their kids to school close to home. A future where you can count on essential services like world-class public health care. Where people can get to and from work on safe, well-maintained roads with shorter commutes, less congestion, and fewer delays. So they can spend less time stuck in the car or on transit and more time with their loved ones. We all want a future where our towns and cities continue to be the heart of life at home. With provincial funding for municipalities that's stable, predictable, and certain, so that the things our families count on will always be there. From the arenas where our kids learn to skate, to the festivals and events where we enjoy time together with friends and neighbors and make lasting memories. This is a shared vision of a prosperous, thriving Ontario that we all work to make a reality every day. It's a vision that hinges on the relationship between provincial government and municipalities. And I'd like to talk about what's been happening and what should be happening. This morning I listened to Premier Doug Ford's speech. It's clear he hasn't been listening to you, and his priorities don't match yours. So now, the countdown to devastating cuts is on. Slashing public health and childcare is slashing things that keep our families safe and healthy. You know, thank you, absolutely. You know very well that the human cost of failing people when it comes to public health, ambulance services, and childcare is unthinkable. It is unthinkable. And so is the Ford tax that I know so many of you are now being forced to contemplate, to fill the holes that Mr. Ford is digging in your budgets. I found it hard to believe this morning that I actually heard the Premier lecturing you about how to spend your already stretched tax dollars. Lecturing won't stop a measles outbreak. Lecturing won't help parents find an affordable, safe childcare spot for their little one so they can go back to work. Doug Ford doesn't think it's his job to help you. In fact, he's creating problems and throwing them at the feet of municipal councils. You know, things were bad enough. Decades of cuts of successive governments have left folks to face dangerously overcrowded hospitals. The Liberals closed hundreds of schools, many in your communities as we sit here today, while at the same time allowing the school repair backlog to balloon to $16 billion. By the way, the $1.4 billion that Mr. Ford is promising to fix the schools is not going to come anywhere near the $16 billion backlog that exists today. And municipal leaders have endured years of cuts to the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. In 2018, support for municipal governments constituted just 5.6% of all provincial transfers. Of $133.7 billion in provincial spending, just $4.2 billion went to municipal governments. In many areas, Kathleen Wynne let Ontario down. Many of you expected better following the election. Many of you hoped for a new, more positive relationship with the province. But that didn't happen. And in many ways, Doug Ford is taking things from bad to worse. You know, I expected the March budget to be painful for a lot of people. What I did not expect, though, was the unprecedented pile-on Mr. Ford's orchestrating against municipalities. According to Moody's, his cuts to public health agencies, planned gas tax transfers, paramedic services, and childcare alone will take $2 billion for municipalities over the next 10 years. Never mind what's coming next. In 2020, that's $300 million. In 2020 alone, $300 million that you were counting on. Gone with the stroke of Doug Ford's pen. Without consultation. And the future of all gas tax transfers are now in doubt because Mr. Ford has put that program under review. Mr. Ford's budget slashes overall funding for the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing by 25%, when municipalities from Kingston to Kenora are desperate for more affordable housing solutions. At a time when many of your communities are dealing with manufacturing and auto job losses, Ford's budget decimates economic development, job creation, and trade with a cut of $185 million and cuts $700 million from colleges, universities, and skills training. And Mr. Ford has only compounded the $290 million cut to infrastructure commitments by refusing to do the paperwork and get the funding flowing quickly so we can play a blame game with the federal government before the October election. And of course, Mr. Ford cut the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, as you all know, a fund that is absolutely crucial to the health of municipalities across Ontario, especially in smaller northern and rural communities. It was hard enough to build the roads, bridges, culverts, and critical infrastructure that Ontarians need without Mr. Ford making it even harder. These days, your infrastructure is not only threatened by age, floods in the southwest and in the east, tornadoes in the east and in the southwest, wildfires across the north. Climate change is hurting us now, and the climate crisis is threatening our children's future. Yet Doug Ford has slashed funding for flood management and for conservation authorities, and he's declared war on the environment. But the worst example, the very worst example of Ford cutting first and asking later is public health. I gotta tell you, I'm worried. And I know many of you are worried too. By pushing a higher proportion of funding onto municipalities, Doug Ford is moving billions of dollars of burden onto your budgets and your property taxpayers. And he's putting at risk the programs that keep people healthy and safe, from clean water testing to containing outbreaks. You know, when it comes to partnerships between local governments, I believe they should be forged with a handshake, not a hatchet. I can thank the Mayor of Burlington for that one. Municipal governments are still recovering from the last round of Conservative amalgamations and downloading in the 90s. early 2000s, followed by a decade and a half of Liberal neglect. Ontario's Premier should always respect the will of democratically elected local governments, always. He or she should work with them, not try to override their wishes, because the Premier's job is to support and partner with municipalities, not rule them. I have to say, if I had a dime for every time I heard at one of these AMO conferences the principle of a true partnership between the municipalities and the province of Ontario, I probably wouldn't be here for my 10th time. But you know, that's exactly what people didn't want. It's not what people voted for. Personne n'a voté pour ça. Doug Ford's meddling in municipal and regional elections in Toronto, Niagara, Peel, York, and Muskoka was absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. He ripped up boards. He canceled elections in the middle of a campaign. And when democratically elected councils told him what they thought, he threatened the notwithstanding clause to bulldoze any dissent. This was never about whether or not you liked Toronto, or if you thought its council was too large. Mr. Ford's decision was about showing mayors and councillors, chairs and wardens, and local elected leaders across the province who's boss. And I worry he's doing it again by reversing the reforms to the local planning and appeal tribunal, bringing us back to the bad old days of the OMB. To overrule, rip up, or rewrite municipal official plans, subdivision plans, zoning bylaws without any consultation. We do need to reset the provincial-municipal relationship. Yes, we absolutely do. No matter how many times we say it at this conference, it still needs to be done. True partnership means respecting and trusting municipalities. That's why I've introduced a bill myself, and it's called the Municipal Representation and Restructuring Protection Act. The bill makes it very clear to this Premier and to future governments that municipal leaders are part of responsible, accountable local government, and they and their citizens should get to decide how their municipalities are governed. In fact, the bill, if passed, would protect municipalities from future election meddling. Local governments should absolutely be free to evolve to better serve their communities. And growing, or shrinking, or redrawing boundaries can only come from the community and from community leadership, the people who know best. Nous défendrons toujours tous les Ontariens et Ontariennes. That means no more backroom deals, no more political vendettas, no more meddling. This would pave the way for a future municipal-provincial partnership where we work together to do what's right for the people that we all serve. On a besoin d'un changement pour le mieux. I believe in our shared vision, a vision of hope, a vision for more opportunity for more people, and a vision of a provincial-municipal partnership based on respecting the priorities of families and delivering on the investments that communities across our province deserve. Investments like stable, predictable infrastructure funding, funding for schools, and more funding for the front lines of public health care. We need to keep pushing for the increase to the municipal gas tax transfer your communities were counting on. We need to invest more in our roads and bridges and support the critical maintenance needed to keep them safe all year long. And that includes bringing winter highway maintenance back into the public sector. I believe the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund should be raised to $550 million, followed by ongoing increases. We need to invest in the things that will make life better for people. It's as simple as that. Things like energy infrastructure, rural broadband, and municipal infrastructure. We also need to lower costs. lower costs for families, for businesses, and for municipalities. But it's wrong for the provincial government to preach fiscal responsibility only to rip funding away and force municipalities to cut services or raise taxes. We should be investing in services like public health today, knowing how much money it will save us tomorrow. You know, sometimes that means doing things differently. Sometimes it means borrowing money or asking the very wealthiest people and the most profitable corporations to pay just a little bit more. But it costs far less to keep people healthy than it does to treat them in a hospital. Not to mention it's the right thing to do. You know, Ontarians have more in common than we have differences. We all want a future with vibrant communities, world-class healthcare, better jobs and opportunities, and good, safe roads and transit systems to take us home to our families. Together, I truly believe that we can build that future. Together, we can make Ontario the best place in the world to live, work, do business, and thrive. Pour un Ontario mieux, agissons ensemble. Thank you very much, everyone. Merci beaucoup.